Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday evening. My name is Vin PF, as you well know, and this is another Dram Slam live, coming to you on live stream for now, but hopefully will be a podcast at some point in the future. If you subscribe to the Dram Slam by No Nonsense Whiskey podcast, eventually these episodes will end up there as well if you like to re-listen and replay and whatnot there. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me on this Tuesday evening for another live stream. I've got a great guest which we'll be bringing on in just a moment. We'll be talking about all things Welsh whiskey. So hopefully that's going to be some new things to much of you. And if you're into your Welsh whiskey, then please do join the chat and let us know what you're into. As always, a massive thank you to my Patreon subscribers for making this sort of thing happen genuinely. And as always, again, make sure you ask questions in the chat if you are watching on live stream. You can just at me at No Nonsense Whiskey, and I should hopefully see it. We will see how the stream goes on. As always, I'm just managing it and doing the kind of hosting myself. So if I miss things, I apologize, but please do keep chucking them out while I do it. But as we like to do on these live streams, let's have a look at the chat and we'll see who's in and we'll say hello to everybody who's popping along. First on them, we had a couple of people in before we started today, and we got Charlie Holmes in. Thank you very much. He's on the Worrell, so yep, he's definitely interested. Pete Head's in and Amy is in. I think neither of them have any Welsh at the moment, but hopefully after today, they might be a bit interested to kind of grab some. We've got Tobias is in. Thank you very much for joining. Jeff, of course. Jeff has been talking about being able to make the festival, which we will talk about in depth a little bit later on. We've got Andrew Butler, of course. I'll be very surprised if Andrew doesn't have any Welsh whiskey in his massive collection. So hopefully he can let us know what he's got. We've got Boss Wardrobes in. Nice one. He's going to be interested to hear about the festival, hopefully. And he's talking about the Bristol one. I'm not going to that one, but hopefully somebody else maybe as well. We've got Whiskey with Molly Ben in. Nice one. Thank you very much for joining. Gav's Drams is in. Nice one. Hello from Edinburgh. Hello from Coventry. Who else have we got? Gary. Gary's in. Nice one. Thanks for joining. Tim is in. Thank you very much. We've got Where's Roy? Indeed, Where's Roy? I always love that handle. It's brilliant. I love to see that. Roy is not here. That's it for people in now. So yeah, just me saying hello to everybody. If you do pop in and want to say hello, please do feel free to check it out. But I don't like to waste too much time monologuing and whatnot, so I will get in my guest Sean. If I unmute him and add him, we'll bring him in. There he is. Hi Sean, how you doing?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you. Thanks for coming on today. It's been it's really good to finally get you on. We've been trying to make this work for a while now, haven't we? But yeah, glad to finally have the tech solved, and I can now get you on without any hitches whatsoever. But thanks for giving up your Tuesday for it.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
So for people who don't know who you are, I think probably people, generally speaking, probably won't know your face. They'll know your voice, if anything. But who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Sean Williams. I am a Welsh whisky advocate. So I do that through a few things. I'm in the process of writing a Welsh whisky book, in a long process of doing it. I'm also the host of a podcast called Whisgi Wales, which some of you may know, some of you probably don't, which is all things Welsh whisky. And then I am also the one of the founders of the Wales Whisky Fest, which is the first ever Welsh Whisky Festival, or the first ever Whisky Festival, I should say, in Wales, because it's not a Welsh Whisky Festival, it's just a Whisky Festival in Wales. So that's me in a nutshell, basically, and feel free to ask me anything else.
No, that's cool. Yeah, fair to say you're a busy man.
I am a very busy man.
I mean, I obviously do my social media stuff, but I haven't delved into anything like book writing or event organizing beyond a small get together annually. So yeah, I dread to think what that entails. So more power to you. We've got a couple of drams to try tonight, but before we get into that, one of the first things I always like to talk about is the origin story of a guest of mine. So forget all of the Welsh whiskey stuff that you do now. What got you into whiskey in the first place?
So I suppose I started my drinking career drinking not very good drinks, as most people do. I grew up in a part of Wales called Swansea, which some people may have been to on a night out, especially if you live kind of M4 corridor. It's quite rowdy, as probably you'll know, but there's not a lot of good quality drinking. I would say it's mostly, you know, WKD and Breeze and stuff when I grew up anyway, which is a while ago. And then after that, after I kind of hit my 20s, I was a wine drinker. I love red wine. I still do. Love Italian, mostly, bit of Spanish, bit of French, but love red wine. And then I suppose as you get older and your drinking habits change, and then it becomes maybe something that you do, to explore and as more of a hobby. Whiskey kind of was always that thing, like a whiskey or a brandy at the end of an evening, at the end of a meal out with friends. So it's always something I kind of remember having, but not kind of in the geeky, kind of getting into it way. And I'd always have a bottle for Christmas and birthdays and things like that. And then I think, I suppose COVID, like most people, I was bored, and a few hobbies came back from years ago, and whiskey kind of was one of those things. I thought, no, do you know what? I've got the time. Let's see what it's all about. Let's explore the different areas. I was always very intrigued with world whiskey. I liked Irish, I liked Scotch, but I really intrigued at what was happening with world whiskey. And it's it has massively snowballed from there. I was in events before, but different type of events, and it's kind of one has joined the other, I suppose, and now obviously we've got the Whisky Festival, and we just finished a few weeks ago Wales Distilled, which was the first ever Welsh Spirits Festival, which was like all Welsh spirits. So there's some whiskey there, there's quite a bit of whiskey there, but all gins, vodkas, all that kind of thing. So in at the deep end, literally in at the deep end this year. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's just sort of, like you said, snowballed, but I think importantly so, because before you started doing any of this stuff, there was kind of nobody doing any of this stuff. So why not be first, right?
Exactly, and you've got to find your niche in life, haven't you? And I was just like, I was looking at it, and looking at these Welsh distilleries, and they're really hard to find. Some of them, I'm not going to lie to people. I would be very surprised if people can name more than 3, maybe 4 maximum. And they're not advertised, and they haven't got the budgets to advertise. And I thought, well, that's a shame, because they've all got a unique story to tell, and Penderyn is very well known, and has kind of really spearheaded the world of world whiskey as well as Welsh whiskey. But there are other distilleries in Wales, and they're doing some amazing and different things, and someone needed to shine a light on them. And as it's in my backyard, and it's quite a small country in relative terms, takes ages to travel anywhere, but it is quite a small country. It was a bit easier to do than maybe dedicate some time to going to 150 distilleries in Scotland, which I would have had to give up my job, I think, if I wanted to kind of do the same thing I've done with Welsh whiskey in the Scotch or even English whiskey. I just wouldn't have had the time for it. So it's nice. It was compact country to live in, so it worked out well.
Yeah, I wonder what it will be like as well, because I think off air we were saying that it's by the end of the decade there's going to be 10 Welsh distilleries, and that's still relatively small fry.
Oh, 100%.
But I wonder if the trend is still going to carry on upwards, and there'll just be more and more, or if eventually it'll just sort of peter out. But I guess we just don't know, do we? So
we don't. I think people will always have an appetite for good whiskey, and no matter what country the whiskey's from, if it's good and if people enjoy it, it'll always have a customer base. If people are just jumping on the bandwagon to earn money, then maybe it won't last as long. So I think that's we'll see who does what, and and we'll see who lasts at the end of it, I suppose. So yeah,
no, 100%, and refreshing to hear as well, because I think I mean, when I started doing my channel, we were just coming out of the phase where Scotch was losing their age statements slowly. No age statement was kind of a bad thing, and when people started losing it and replacing it with no age statements, everyone was kicking off about their favorite ones being replaced and whatnot. But I feel like that in the last 10 years or so, especially with, like the bloggers, vloggers, podcasts, all this stuff that's coming out, there's no room for bad whiskey anymore, because it gets called out so quickly.
Exactly.
And people, dare I say the I word, they call us the influencers now. But if someone online says a whiskey is so terrible, you don't want to, I mean, actually makes me want to buy it, to be honest. But it can affect the sales for sure. So yeah, I think all these new guys, they're doing the things right, hopefully. And like you said, if they're not, they're gonna have to change it or live with it, I guess. But
No, I think so. I think it's never been so more transparent, I think, and people have very few places to hide because
Mm,
the knowledge of the kind of just a punter is very high now. I think people who are into it are properly into it, and they know so much, and it's hard to kind of pull the wool over their eyes then, and they if they can smell something's wrong, they'll say, won't they? So I'm minding my expletives because I'm trying to keep this clean for everyone. But yeah, it's I definitely think it needs to be good whiskey. It doesn't matter if it's age statement whiskey, non-age statement, Welsh, Welsh, Scottish, world whiskey. It's just got to be good whiskey, isn't it? And
mhm.
all good whiskey is good whiskey, but it doesn't necessarily come from one place or in one size fits all. I'm sure most people on here love a bit of everything different, and that's what makes it so exciting and so enjoyable a hobby to have, I think, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I wager there's 23 people watching now, and of those people that I can see in the chat, nearly I would say nearly all of them. Most of them, if not all of them, are into kind of exploration and trying different things. So that's awesome. So hopefully when we go through it today, because having you on today is really cool because you have a unique perspective. Usually when I'm talking to a brand rep or something, they're coming with 3 or 4 drams from their distillery. Obviously, they're going to be slightly biased, but you've sent me 4 drams from distilleries around Wales that are just your drams, right? So it's you'll be able to tell us a little bit about each one and what they are, and provide your unbiased opinion of those things. So
Try and show people the world outside Penderyn as well, because I
yeah.
love Penderyn,
Hmm.
fantastic whiskey, but everyone can it's accessible to everyone. I think really in the UK anyway, and in a lot of other countries now. So let's look tonight at these unusual ones and these ones that you probably have never heard of that are well worth seeking out and going to the effort. And and there's a wide variety of them. No one Welsh whiskey distillery is the same 100% from top to bottom. They're all incredibly different, because we're not governed by the strict laws of say Scotland. They are massively different, the stills, the process, everything, so it'd be cool to chat about that tonight as well.
Definitely. Well, I think to space out the drams, then maybe we should jump into the first one before I get into some actual questions. But I've gone in terms of ABV. I don't know if that's a good
Yeah, I think so. I think
way of
so.
doing it.
And I think I'm guessing Anglesey you're starting with. I think that's a
Yeah,
good one to start with as well, to be honest.
yeah. I've
So
got these nice funky bottles. I like these little.
they're
I
cool, aren't
want.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like them.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
Good
yeah.
old
So
Jeff Bezos special from Amazon. So
it's got to be done. So actually, this is a distillery I know absolutely nothing about, so I'm at your mercy with this.
I would be surprised if you did. So start at the top of Wales as well. It's a good place to start. So
Mm.
far north of Wales, the island of Anglesey, Ynys Môn, is an island separated from the Welsh mainland. If you look at a map of Wales, it's like the little hat on the top, basically. And it's the only whiskey distillery on the island. And it's very small scale. It's not very good at marketing. He's a great guy, David. I know him personally, the distillery owner, but he's not very good at marketing. So it's really hard to find this whiskey. But you should, because it's really good. Every time I do tastings, people are really surprised. And it's all done small scale. He goes to the cooperage, picks by hand. He's got tiny, tiny stills, like kind of home brew stills basically, but with a copper line arm on. But he's got about 9 of them, and he just runs them all the time. And if one goes down, we just literally almost bin it and get another one, because they are like 150 quid stills basically. They are, you could buy them at home. He's got all the licensing, and he's got a warehouse and pallet tracking and everything like that. But it's amazing what he does. And what I think it is not only his attention to detail, but he uses water from the farm, which is a glacial lake that's now a field from thousands of years ago, and the water is so soft. If you try his water, just his spring water that he sells as well, you can tell the softness, and that translates massively into the whiskey. I think it's one of the smoothest whiskies. If you're a non-whiskey drinker, it's very approachable because the ABV and the smoothness, and it's a cool whiskey. I mean, you can tell me what you think and tasting notes and things like that, and see what you think of it.
It's got a lovely nose on it. It's in terms of nose, I would say it's not so dissimilar to what I'm used to drinking with kind of Scotch and things, which is good. You know, that's what you want to do when you want to branch out from people that are typically Scotch drinkers and whatnot. The palate was something weird was happening to me, because it was just every time I picked out a tasting note, it evolved into the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And that doesn't usually happen to me. But yeah, where it starts out quite grain forward, very malty, but then before I knew it, it's got this almost like a bitter coffee ground, and
wow, cool.
and then nipping into I mean it's the most Christmas cakey dram I've ever had, which is weird because it's like those like it's not like on the sweet spectrum, it's on that kind of like the dry end of it all.
Yes, it is quite dry.
Yeah, sultanas, cloves, and a bit of a weird one. I was picking out a little bit of aniseed as well, which is but it just kept going and going and going. But considering it's 40%, if I was doing this on a blind tasting, I would have this punches above its weight for sure.
100%. And everyone I've done tastings with is really surprised. I mean, I'd love to try a cask strength or like a 48, 50% version of it, but it just doesn't do it at the minute because it's such a small batch. But I mean, I just think it's all bourbon, 100% bourbon matured. It's so vanilla-y and so smooth, and like I said, all the kind of traditional Christmas cakey, but without being like, it's not a sherry bomb, you know. But it's the best possible thing I think you could do with bourbon. You get all the sugary, not the sugary, but the like burnt caramel and vanilla, without it being super sweet. But I think it's great, and it's you can find it online, but you have to seek it out, basically. And it's Anglesey Mon Distillery, and they only do one whiskey at the minute as well. Or you could come to the festival, obviously, and try it. But we'll chat about that after. Shameless plug. But,
no, not at all. That's what we're here for. All those links in the description below, by the way, for everyone who's I haven't put the drams down there, but I will do later. And there's Greg's been asking about the drams. What I'll do is I'll type them in as we talk about them, because obviously some of these words aren't particularly easy for native English speakers, let alone non-native English speakers.
If you just Google Anglesey whiskey, it'll come up anyway. It's the only one. I think there's a place called Story Beers that's probably got the best online presence that sell it. And that's the other thing I would say as well. Accessibility-wise, it's about 32 quid, 34 quid a bottle. And I just don't think you can really kind of complain at the price. It's very small batch. It's normally single cask. You know, it's obviously it's watered down. It's not cask strength, but it's normally like one batch, one cask. Basically, I think the last bottle I had, I've run out now, but last bottle I had, he was on like batch 8. So it's, you know, it's small scale, but great if you can find it. And if you know, if you haven't tried other Welsh whiskies, I'd say it's a great one that you can surprise people with as well if you've got whiskey pals, because they'll never have tried it. 100% guarantee, you know.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee it as well. I mean, I don't think I've even seen a bottle of it with my own eyes, so I wasn't even sure what it would look like without pulling the details. But yeah, for 40%, I mean, like you said, 30 odd quid. There was some people were saying above about they didn't particularly like the first release from Aber Falls, but I'm one of the few people that did, you know, considering it was 22, 25 quid when it first came out. And it was in supermarket. I mean, Lord knows how they managed to get it in supermarkets in such volume, but yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I'm there for cheap whiskey as well. You know, cheap and good tasting whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I spoke to friends about this before. I'm definitely like, I don't think cheap whiskey is bad whiskey, but there are bad cheap whiskeys at the same time. So there are still some, you know, it's an expensive product to buy for good reason because of what goes into it, but there are some still cracking deals to have, I think, and this is definitely one of them. I think you know, it's a good start as well.
Good start, yeah, for sure. I think at 40%, I think it would get blown out by
the others,
quote unquote superior ones. But yeah, because I think the highest one I've got here is 51%. So I'll be interested to go back to it afterwards. Greg's also asking, I don't think you said you had the bottle of this one anymore, but if you do have the bottles of any of these.
I haven't, but if you go on the my Instagram or the Whisky Festival Instagram, you'll see the bottle pick, because we do all the exhibitors. We've got like our own photography of the bottles in the area and stuff like that. So you'll see it a lot. And if you just Google it, you'll see it as well. It's got the island of Anglesey in blue, and then his new bottling has got like the Menai Bridge, which is one of the bridges that connects the island to the mainland underneath it, which is a suspension bridge, a bit like kind of Clifton's suspension bridge, you know, kind of iconic with, you know, with the shape and everything, old Victorian bridge. So it's very simple. It looks, you know, it's a 50 cl, not, you know, not a 70. I always screw this up. No, 70 cl, yeah. But yeah, it's I sell for a 50 cl. I think it's good value for money as well. But yeah, seek it out. I would just Google Anglesey whiskey, Anglesey Mon whiskey, and you will find it. And it is the Anglesey distillery. There's only one distillery that's actually called the Anglesey Distillery or Anglesey Mon Distillery, and that's him anyway. There are a few that use the name similar, but they don't do whiskey. But you know, Anglesey Mon Distillery, and you will find it anyway.
Cool. Perfect. A perfect start, as you say. A perfect start. Now, I wanted to ask you. I think I'm trying to decide which order to do it in. Probably the best thing to talk about is the Wales distilled that just came and went. Because obviously, when we started talking about this live stream, you hadn't quite done that yet.
No, I hadn't. No.
And now you have. So, how was your first event?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, definitely a learning curve, but everyone that came enjoyed it. You know, it was. I think it was well organized. You know, like we put a lot of effort in to make sure that everyone was safe and happy. And there weren't any instances with, you know, kind of people over drinking too much and anything like that. So that was good because there's always a worry, isn't it, with a drinks festival. But yeah, everyone enjoyed themselves. I think we're going to change the festival venue next year because I love the venue, but the overwhelming feedback was it is quite hard to get to. Unlike the Whisky Festival, it's in a town. It's in it's in a country house, you know, off a main dual carriageway, off the main A55, but very difficult if you want to no train and, you know, public buses, yes, but not to the door. So I think that was the overwhelming thing. Although the venue was perfect for what we wanted this year, it's maybe not perfect going forward. So we're kind of really looking at how we do it next year and maybe do it in more of an urban area to make it easier for people to come, basically.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's got to be, especially if you want people to come far and wide, I guess.
Yes.
You know, it's fine to be for local, for, you know, travelers and whatnot. But yeah, I've certainly never driven to a festival. Yeah. Or at least stay overnight. That's not too bad if there's options. But it sounded like it was, yeah, a pretty. Was it near any kind of accommodations and whatnot as well?
Well, it was in a hotel, so you could
right.
stay at the hotel, and we encourage everyone to stay at the hotel if they wanted, or to stay in one of the hotels nearby and get a taxi. But unfortunately, you had to pay for a taxi. It's really the only way of doing it, or you had to have a designated driver. I mean, we had like music and street food and all that there as well, and we made sure we did like loads of mocktails and stuff as well as drink, and you know. So you could have gone there, been sensible, and driven home, but I know that's not necessarily what everyone wants, and they want to fully enjoy it and not have to think about driving. So yeah, for next year we're looking at different places, but we do struggle in North Wales. I'm not going to lie. You know, we could move it to South Wales, but then there's kind of other events, and we're not competing because it's its own event, but they're similar events for the same kind of demographic. So we kind of trying to keep it in North Wales, but we are short, you know, of places. There's not many big towns, and the ones that are, they don't always have good transport links. So it's just, you know, the fact we live in a rural area, that always is a struggle. But I think we might have the right place for next year. So stay tuned, basically. Stay tuned. Yeah.
Cool. I guess obviously we're coming at it from a whiskey point of view, but what made you decide to do two separate events rather than kind of like one massive, or doing like a massive distilled event rather than just a focused?
Because they're very different, I think. So Wales Distilled was, as the name would suggest, a Welsh spirits festival. You know, we can't do that with whiskey. We can't do like Richard does with the English Whisky Festival because we haven't got as many distilleries to make it worthwhile for the public to come. But what we have got is fantastic, you know, rum, gin, vodka, liqueur, you know, other spirits distilleries, loads of craft ones. You know, we've got 72, 73 spirits producers, whether they're distilled or bottled themselves, and about kind of 40 to 50 actual distilleries that distill it themselves. So, there's lots of really cool spirits, and it's a different type of person that would go to that event than a whiskey festival. And we wanted the whiskey festival to be an awesome whiskey festival. If you like whiskey, it doesn't matter if you don't, if you don't even know about Welsh whiskey, we've got everything there. All the big brands, some of the small ones you won't have heard of, all the world whiskies. It's a real mix for the whiskey enthusiast. Whereas Wales Distilled was like a showcase event for these small Welsh producers that don't get the chance to have that kind of event or the budget to go to that kind. They can't afford always to go to these big, the gin and tonics and the, the kind of big spirits events that there are in like national exhibition halls and things. They can't afford it. So we wanted to do something for them, really. And we didn't make any money off it. That was the other thing. Because we tried to make it as successful as possible for them, we literally made zero whatsoever. I think we didn't make a loss, but I think we literally, by the time we worked it out, it didn't cover our time properly, obviously, but we really didn't make any money. But it wasn't about that. That's the thing. It was not about making money. It was about kind of giving back to our industry in Wales and trying to help them anyway. Some of them won't be helped, but trying to help them.
No, I know the feeling. I mean, I've not done any events, but I've done a couple of bottlings under my own label, and it's a challenge to make any real money in this industry for sure. Especially with I don't think Taxman affects you guys too badly on events, but still,
luckily,
definitely a thing. Okay, before we talk about the actual whiskey festival, then let's do dram number 2, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. What are you going for?
I'm again in ABV. Because I picked the Coles out this time. The Coles organic.
Right, cool. So I have got the Coles. So I've got their 50 CL. I haven't got a lot left. If you guys can see, but this is their 50 CL, and this is their organic single malt. And I did a tasting with the Honest to a Malt guys last night, and this dram was definitely well received and some interesting notes. So I'm on the fence with it, but tell me what you think, and I'll tell you what they thought and what I think. Then I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely a very raw spirit for sure. It's but I quite like that. I always say, like, especially behind me, I've got quite a breadth of different flavor profiles, and I talk about easy drinking whiskies and challenging whiskies. This is definitely on the more challenging end of the spectrum.
This is challenging. Yes.
Yeah, it's not one that I would casually watch a film while drinking. Pretty much, if I'm drinking this, I'm just drinking this, and I've got my nose in it. I've got my pen in my hand, that sort of thing. Because I feel like it would change every time I came to it.
And it has. I mean, this is totally different from like the neck pour. There's not much of the bottle left because I've been sending out the samples, but its oxygen has helped it. Honestly, I would say this is the best it's tasted since and that's regardless of what bottle I've popped it from. But this is probably the least amount I've had in a bottle, and it's actually and I left it out for about half an hour while we were chatting before this as well, and it's done us some good, to be honest. It's got rid of the harsh alcohol, and you can actually get the notes then as well. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's 42%, which that's an odd choice, I will say, but it's not a bad one.
While you're thinking about it, then shall I tell you about Coles, because it is a bit of a one you got to really kind of think about a bit. So
go for it.
So Coles still is I would say one of the least well known, even more so than Anglesey. Main reason you can't buy this online. They have a website, Coles Distillery and Brewing, I think they call it. But it is like proper, 1995 JavaScript. It is like a retro website. You cannot buy from it if you are of the modern age where you are just used to the joys of online shopping. It will probably freak people out, but they are a genuine company, and you ring them up and pay by card and order some things because it's fantastic. But it is literally as I remember when I was kind of in my teens and 20s, I'm showing my age, but you have to actually physically ring them, talk to them, and go, I'll have one of them, and send it to here. I think you can send them an email to avoid some of that, but you do have to ring them up and pay. But they're very small scale, but they've built it all themselves. The two brothers, as big characters as you ever hope to meet. And they own a 400-year-old thatched roof pub called the White Hart, which is in front of it. So what I would say is if you're ever in the kind of Carmarthen area, which is sort of in between South Wales, West Wales, it's a great place to visit as a distillery tour. So they only do them in the morning. You have to book in advance, ring them up, and then you can have an awesome pub lunch and go there hungry, maybe skip breakfast because they are big portions. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, I won't go into too much technical detail, but it's stainless steel still, which gives it definitely some unique flavor. It's got copper perforated plates in the column. So it definitely does some weird stuff with it, I would say. And yeah, and they've been around for a long time. I mean, they're either the second or the third Welsh distillery. So they either came straight after Penderyn a few years later, or after the other dram that you'll be trying tonight with is de Vile, de Mille, if some people have seen it online, the spelling. And yeah, they're very low key because it's not their main business. And they just do like a couple of batches of this spirit, that spirit every year. And the whiskey is just one of them things they do an organic and a standard. And yeah, it's very different. So go on, tell me what you think of it. I'm really intrigued what you get on the nose and on the palate.
Yeah, it's a very farmyardy nose for sure. Lots of hay, which again is no bad thing. It's just what I get. One thing I did notice when on the palate was it's got a sort of like an effervescence, like a fizziness to it, which oddly comes through on the nose as well. Which I know it's really hard to say how you can smell fizziness, but
I'm with you.
You get it, yeah. It's I mean, I've never tried a dram quite like it. That's for sure.
100%. So I was on with Honest to a Malt last night, and the boys got grease-proof paper and battered sausage and chips with loads of vinegar and salt. And I was like, I have never had that. And they both agreed. I mean, they're both like sitting in different parts of the country, and they both agreed 100%. That's what they got. And now, like after that, I suppose subconscious, I don't get the fish and chip or the sausage and chips, but I do get the paper. 100%. I get this kind of like papery kind of like greaseproof paper, I suppose, like the paper you have in the chippy or like a takeaway. And I do get that little, but for me, it's very sharp. I would say that's the overwhelming flavor. Well, it's not a flavor, is it? But it's like a sharp citrus. If you bite into like a grapefruit without any sugar or anything like that, you get that proper like kind of roll your lips up, sort of really sharpness to it. And it's just super different. And I think that's the stainless steel still. And I think that's, just what it does. And they do a long-ish ferment. They do about 3-day ferment to get some like esters and some different things going on. But yeah, it's challenging. And if you, I think Duncan called it a dirty dram. So if you like a dirty dram, then this is maybe the one for you to seek out. Because it's super different. I guarantee you've never tasted anything like it as well. It will kind of, it will surprise even the most kind of regular whiskey drinker, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, touching on something I was going to talk about later, but I think that's the really interesting thing about Welsh whiskey right now is that they, at the moment anyway, they don't seem afraid to deviate from what we would call normal. I mean, like, dare we talk about English whiskey for a brief moment, but they're now doing the English Whiskey Guild, which I talked to Rob recently about on another live stream. Rob Patchett from Cotswolds, and it's sort of, I get it, but it sort of stresses me out that they've gone down that road.
Maybe restricting the kind of experimental side of things a bit, I think. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think it's a shame because I think why set yourself up like the Scotch industry, like the Irish industry? You're never going to be the Scotch industry. So, why not have a point of difference that means you can experiment and try and find what that is? that's unique to your distillery
Mm.
might not be what's unique to someone else's distillery. So yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but I know enough to think that, well, maybe protect English whiskey with like a GI, like Welsh whiskey has done, but keep it open. Keep it open for wood types, open for different stills, open for different ways of fermenting, different ways of maturing. Like don't restrict an industry that is there to be unique, and English whiskey is unique at the minute, and I worry that English whiskey will fall down the trap of kind of all tasting the same then, and then it's a shame, but we'll see.
We'll see.
There's some great English whiskies, I would say. The Cheshire, not too far from us. I think you said there's someone from the Wirral. They might have been there to Wheatwood Distillery. Awesome whiskey. I mean, amazing things they're doing with quarter casks, and I would put it up there with some of the best non-age statement whiskey anywhere. I mean, it's fantastic. It's great whiskey. So it's some really good English whiskey, I think, as well. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's some really exceptional stuff coming out, and I think the same for you guys over there. Obviously there's some people making more classic-y style things, but why not try the weird stuff as well? That's what I think. Especially with new technologies now. We've got all different kind of still shapes coming out. We've got ice stills, which I guess we'll talk about in a little bit because we've got a Welsh wind on my table. But that sort of like accidentally answered a question that Ben Marnock gave us earlier, which was does Sean think it was wise to go for GI for Welsh whiskey before there was a definitive style? I think we've already answered that by saying that I don't think there is going to be a definitive style for Welsh.
There won't be, and all the GI does is say that it's got to be bottled in Wales, it's got to be distilled in Wales, and it has to use Welsh water, and that's it. And I think that's great, because then you pick up a bottle and you go, yeah, it's made in Wales and it's bottled in Wales by a Welsh company, and that, and that's all it needs. I think that's what a geographical, you look at any geographical indicator for any product, whether it be cake or ham or cheese, it's just protecting like where it's from and how it's made. So someone, from another country, from another area can't turn around and say, no, we're making Welsh whiskey when they're in China or something like that, and that's all it really means in real terms. It's a brand, isn't it? Welsh whiskey as a brand can only be used for people making Welsh whiskey, and there's nothing wrong with that 100% at all. It doesn't. I think the way they've done it is perfect. Is really good.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, then let's talk briefly about the. I'll say briefly, as long as you like, really, about the Whisky Festival. So that's coming up at the end of the year. Well, I shouldn't talk for you, really. Tell us about the festival and what's going to be in store.
Yeah, so first of all, it's not a Welsh Whisky Festival. We've got a fantastic array of Welsh whiskies, some you've probably never heard of, and some released at the festival, which I'm so happy that they've chosen the festival as a showcase to release product and new whiskies. So that's great. But I love all types of whiskey, as I've said. So I wanted to make an awesome whiskey festival that was on my doorstep, and there isn't one. So I was like, right, let's make one. The original idea was my partner. I've said this before. My partner Charlotte comes up with all the good ideas, and then she just goes like, sort it out now. You figure out how to do it, but it's my idea. So it's a great idea, and I think we've come up with a good festival. So we've got a 3-day festival effectively, but the main festival is on the Saturday. So it starts on the 1st of November this year. Friday night at the festival premise, which is the St. George's Hotel, lovely Victorian seaside hotel in Llandudno or Llandudno, however you say it. We got a paired dinner, very exclusive. 100 tickets were available. I think there's only like 35 available now, and we're 6 months away still. So I would say that's going to sell out quite easily. And we're doing a paired Penderyn dinner, 4-course, or it might even be 5-course. Check the website for full details. And every course you get a different whiskey that we think is suited with the Welsh produce. And then we've got some surprise guests, people in the industry, people who are kind of something different and to do with Welsh whiskey and some interesting kind of dinner subjects, I suppose, as well. So that'll kick it off. And then on the 2nd is the main event. So Saturday starts lunchtime, finishes in the evening, 2 sessions. And you basically have 4 hours access to 25 plus distilleries and independent bottlers. We're saying 25 plus because we have 25 exhibitors, but one of them is a world whiskey area put in by a company called Mangrove. I don't know if anyone knows it because they don't have a public entity, but they represent some amazing whiskies that you will have heard of. So we've got M&H, Storning, we've got Morris from Australia, we've got Asahi from Japan. I mean, we've literally got like about 10 different countries represented in this world whiskey area. And then we've got good selection of Welsh, Scottish, Irish and English whiskies as well. So there's a bit for everyone. And then some independent bottlers like Douglas Lang, my good friend from Malt Mates as well. They're coming as well. Very kind of quirky independent brand there. But yeah, so really cool whiskey festival. And I hope it's something that people will come to just because it's a good whiskey festival. It doesn't matter this in Wales. I want it to be like Kendal, like Rich's one in Croydon. That's just like an amazing independent whiskey festival that people just want to travel to outside of the kind of main, Scottish and the London whiskey festivals and make a weekend of it. Every ticket holder gets a free tour in Penderyn and Aberfalls. So Penderyn has got their own distillery in Llandudno now in the town, 10-minute walk from the festival hotel. So it's literally you can walk there on the same day if you want, but you can go Friday, Saturday or Sunday. And in Aberfalls, you have to jump in the car, but it's literally 10, 15 minutes in the car. So it's not far away. Jump in the car, go and visit Aberfalls maybe on the Sunday. And then on the Sunday, there are distillery sessions with Aberfalls and Penderyn that are only accessible to ticket holders. They're doing like single cask tastings, different things, especially for the festival as well. So that's it. I mean, what you get for your... I'm rabbiting on as quick as I can here, so I'm apologies.
No, please take your time. Take your time.
What you get for your money, I would say, is a bit different from other whiskey festivals. And obviously people have questioned that online and what it's about. So you get unlimited tastings, 100%. You can taste as many whiskies as you want with a free Glencairn glass, which is not a new concept. We're doing a tried and tested thing. Excuse me. But what I didn't want is 10 mil tastings. Most people do, if they're feeling a bit generous, maybe 20 mil tastings. What I didn't want is people to be obliged to spend that 4 hours trying to just neck as many tasters as they possibly could. I want you to actually enjoy the experience of being there without that feeling of like, I want to get my money's worth. So you actually, as well as the tastings, you get 5 dram tokens that you can have full 30 mil measures of. So if there's something you really want to try and you want to sit down and savor it, we've got a nice chill out area. With free coffees and teas as well, like proper coffee. If you're a coffee snob like me, you can have like flat white and stuff as well to kind of break the whiskey up. All on us, all included, and some snacks and, savory and sweet snacks as well. So you can have all of that included as well. But you can sit down with some mates, and sip a proper dram and not feel obliged to just run round everyone in 4 hours. So, see who's there, plan who you want to see and what you want to try. And then actually enjoy a dram of it as well, because you've got 5 drams to enjoy. And then if that isn't kind of enough for you and you want something a bit more refreshing, the fantastic guys at Larkfire are doing a highball bar for us, which is completely complimentary as well. So you get Aberfalls and Penderyn highballs with Larkfire water, specially designed with different garnishes for the festival weekend, for the Saturday. And you can have as many of them as you want as well. So there is no kind of rush on you just trying to go for the tasters, really enjoy the atmosphere and be selective and go for quality, not quantity. That's what I would say about this festival. Enjoy the experience of being there, not trying to rush around in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like literally the word I was thinking of there when you were describing it was it's an experience of a weekend.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
Like not to pick on any other festivals in particular, but there's some of the big boys, let's say. I've been to a few of the big ones, the really big ones, and I find them exhausting. because they're usually quite long as well, and they're usually very far away from my home, so I end up making a weekend of it, and then it ends up being, it's very heavy, very heavy. But when I looked at the itinerary for this, it all sounded, and like you said, it's quite small as well, right? So what do you say, 100 tickets was total?
For the Friday night,
The
yeah.
Friday
So
night, sorry,
for the
right.
Friday night, yeah. So for the Saturday, we've got cap numbers because of insurance and things like that. So it's 500 tickets on offer. We might be able to squeeze in literally like a dozen more, but it really is like we are capped with the numbers. So it's a good number per distillery. You're not going to be in a bun fight with 20 other people trying to get to the table either. And the 500 tickets are spread between the two sessions, so it's 250 tickets per session.
Cool.
So it is quite small in terms of numbers, but in a way that I hope suits the visitor. And I want something that's primarily aimed at the festival goer rather than the distilleries trying to hawk you product. Basically, I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to come back every year because you enjoyed it so much. And that's my aim, really.
No, that's cool. I think that's really, it's like you said, there's quite a lot of festivals out there, so it's nice to see you doing something slightly different and something to attract people over. But yeah, so obviously, if people are interested in that, there's a link in the description below, so people can go and check that out and find out more information and tickets and whatnot. I'm going to try my hardest to be there if I can be. I still need to double check the weekend availability, but I think I'll be there for the actual Saturday at the very, 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 very least.
Yeah,
but
it'd be great to have you there. And I know a few keen people have booked to come 2 sessions as well. Obviously, you're coming as our guest, so you're more than welcome to come for both sessions. But I know some people are doing it, and I have advised them to have a nice meal in between in the hotel, in the gap in between sessions to limit the alcohol. But I think they come into it with the right idea. They come in because they know they can enjoy the day. And the other things that I have on offer, and I'm all for that. So if you want to book 2 sessions, fine. There's not one ticket to do the 2, so you will have to book 2 tickets. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you guys at home want to do that, then that's no problem. Or just come for one, like most people are as well. It's entirely up to you. You enjoy your festival weekend as you want to enjoy it, basically.
But not too much.
well, yeah. try and leave there under your own steam is what I would say. The minute if you're gonna have to be carried out, you've enjoyed it a little too much, maybe. So carb load, big breakfast.
Yeah.
There's lots of nice cafes in Camden, where you can have a nice fry up or something, and load up, and then maybe have some like baked goods for your lunch before you come in. Have some sausage rolls or pasties or something like that. Yeah,
some good stodge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I remember my first big festival, one of the London ones, and I decided that I didn't want to spend money on a hotel, so I was coming home on the train, and a friend came with me. But I remember getting the train, and the next thing I remember was him shaking me awake at Coventry Station, and just being like, and then I got a taxi home from there, obviously. But he was going on further. But that was when I realised that festivals are a different beast entirely, and you need to switch your brain into festival mode for sure, and treat them with respect.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think with a bit of planning and a bit of like forethought, and actually, getting your most for your money as well, because most people aren't going to be local to the area, so you're going to have to spend some money on a train or drive there for the weekend, and stay overnight and that. So put a bit of effort into it, and I think you'll have a great weekend. I mean, it's a seaside resort town. It's Victorian seaside town that's still, I would say, kept its charm and not got kind of like a lot of British seaside towns. It's managed to keep up with trends, and it's a nice place to visit. It hasn't got the kind of pitfalls of other British seaside towns, shall I say. So it's actually an enjoyable place to come. Lots of nice restaurants, bars, hotels for every budget. You can stay at the festival hotel with a discount with your ticket that you get when you buy a ticket as well, if you like. And it's a big hotel, so there's plenty of rooms still available. But you can stay in a Premier Inn or Travel Lodge. You can stay in a B&B, whatever you want. There's lots of options for people. So that's why we picked Llandudno, because it's a perfect place for everyone, to stay at the budget that they have, basically.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. Before we move on to the third dram, then one question and someone else jumping in. So Mike, aka Whiskey Wings, he's jumped in tonight.
Aha, yes, I thought he might do somehow.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mike. How are you?
He was just saying that he's just editing the podcast from last night, and he's literally editing the bit where you talk about the festival. So we're tripping him out right now. I like it.
I talked way too long. I think I had the biggest intro of any guest they've had. It was like I was rabbiting on for 20 minutes before they even got to like the normal part of the show. So apologies, Mike. I know the joys of editing podcasts. So apologies for my rambling. And feel free to cut anything I say out. I won't be offended in any way.
No, it's all good. They're obviously another podcast, Honest to a Malt, a fantastic podcast. So definitely worth checking out. We'll get onto your podcast after the next dram, but Amy's asking as well. I know the answer, but I'll let you answer. She's saying, do they have their own peat? I think she's talking about Welsh whiskey in general, about the various peated versions there are. Now I know Penderyn's got a good range of peated, but that's where my knowledge stops.
So Penderyn up until recently only did finished casks, so not distilled peated malt. So they do their normal new make, and then they'd age it in bourbon normally, and then they'd finish it in a Lafroig peated cask to give it a nice smoky flavour. But that is the reason they built the Llandudno distillery. So Llandudno has one still, one Faraday still, and all it does is peated malt. So it will be their standalone peated whiskey, which will be out in a few years, because it's quite a new distillery. They only opened it about 2 years ago, so it'll be out soon, but a few years' time. And then Coles are doing a peated malt. It's somewhere in their many barrels hidden away. When it comes out, I don't know. I mean, if you start looking into them, you'll see it's quite hard to get information on things from them. But they will have one as well. And as far as I know, no one else in Wales has really gone for a peated malt that I'm aware of. I mean, people have spoke about it, 100%. The guys at De Ville do a peated single, or a peated cask finished single grain, which is fantastic. Tastes like bonfire popcorn, like s'mores, kind of like super sweet but then smoky, but not like medicinal smoke, like really nice smoke. So they do that, but no one that I know other than Penderyn and Coles that are experimenting so far are talking about a peated malt. So it is kind of generally unpeated at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I'm not sure what the is there any native peat in Wales? Is that a thing?
There is, but I mean, obviously, peat is, kind of, it's one of those contentious subjects, and there's not, I would say, enough of it in Wales to actually, harvest it in a sustainable, ecological way. And I'm glad they haven't. What I would love to see in Wales is maybe to look at other forms of smoking the malt, but we haven't got a maltings in Wales, so it's kind of hard then to do that. But if there was a malting in Wales, I'd love to see them do something like heather. There's loads of heather. They burn it every year, especially in my area in Snowdonia. Hills are on fire until about May. Luckily this year it's been so wet they haven't been able to, so I'm kind of glad of that, really. But they burn the heather to encourage new growth. But why don't they harvest it? It would be fantastic to harvest it and then smoke. You use the heather for smoke, and things like stoning whiskey. I think you've tried stoning whiskey, haven't you? They use heather as well as peat to do the smoke, and it gives it something completely different. And I think that would be a really cool way for Welsh whiskey to go. But I think we're a long way off, because we need a maltings in Wales. That's the thing. Or we need, someone close to Wales that is kind of willing to work with the Welsh whiskey industry to do something different as well. I think that, and that's a long way off yet, unfortunately.
Mike's just saying he's holding off on notes of the Coles because it's quote unquote mental. He's put on here. No, we actually just finished that one, Mike. So yeah, I think we agree. I think I didn't call it mental. I think I called it challenging. Is
no battered sausage and chips, though, Mike.
No.
Just you're aware. Like, that is you and Duncan, 100%. No one else is picking up that. But the paper, sorry. The paper, 100%. I'm getting that on the nose, like greaseproof paper. So yeah, no, I definitely get that. But I love it. Everyone's so different, don't they? Everyone gets something different from the jam, and I just think that's the most bonkers nose in note I've ever heard, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
Definitely, I think it might be the waxiness that's
Yeah,
because wax
I think
greaseproof
so.
paper
Yeah.
is waxy in it. But yeah, well, I've poured out the third one, which I've gone for now. I've heard you say it a couple of times now.
So it's
I
De Ville,
yeah,
not
De
De Mille.
Ville.
Yeah. So a lot of people say De Mille because that's how
Yeah,
it looks. So it's DA or MH. I'm dyslexic, so there's no point asking me to spell anything. Anyway, MHIL, but it's not a Welsh word. It's a Scotch Gaelic word. The history of the distillery, which I'll talk about now, is kind of mixed with the Scottish industry quite a lot, and it means 2000, and it was because they first started distilling whiskey in the new millennium in 2000. They're one of the, again,
okay.
between them and Coles, like I said, they're the older whiskey distilleries. They've been around for over 20 years now. And yeah, and it's a Scotch Gaelic word that trips everyone up. No one knows how to say it. Every time I say De Ville, people are like, what? Who's that? I've heard of De Mille, who's De Ville, but it is, I've been taught how to say it by many members of their staff and by their owner, and it is De Ville. But yeah, it's a great distillery. Do you want me to talk about the distillery a bit while you're kind of getting
Absolutely,
into the next
definitely.
slam? Yeah. So they're down near in the Welsh Wind, but obviously have been there a long time. An solely organic distillery, and they basically, they've had an organic farm for I think 40 odd years. And they do Tyvee cheese, fantastic Welsh cheese that they make from their organic milk. That's going to be at the festival. You can have some cheese with your whiskey as well at the festival. So that'd be nice for people to try. But they wanted to do an organic whiskey, and no one was doing it at the time. So they actually went to Loch Lomond and contract distilled Loch Lomond to make an organic single malt whiskey. So their first few bottlings were Loch Lomond on contract distill, all organic. And then they bought their own still, obviously, and things progressed. And over the years, they do many organic spirits, and now they do a kind of standard, either Madeira or a sherry, depending on what batch you get each year, single malt. And then they do a single grain, smoky single grain because of the Lefroy cask finish. And they're both fantastic. I absolutely love them. They are very small batch, they are like 220, 230 bottles per batch. So they're quite exclusive, but they're fantastic whiskey. I mean, it's not something you're going to go and pick up on the shelf in Tesco, but you can buy it online easily. You Google the distillery name, or you put the link below, and you can buy all their things online quite easily, along with some weird and wonderful stuff. They do an absinthe, they do a seaweed gin, I think it is, or rum, and they do do loads. They do a brandy, they do really nice, and all of the spirits I've tried that they do are exceptional, really, really good. Not budget, I would say. It's on the pricier end, 100%. But for what you get, and if you look at their setup, I think you have to kind of allow a bit of that as well, because they are super small scale, and you're getting something that's quite exclusive. And if you're a collector, I don't personally. I'd like to drink my whiskey, not let it gather dust. But if you are a collector, then I think it's a good one to kind of put in your collection and keep for a few years as well.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm behind me. I've got something like 105 bottles, and 100 of them are open. So it's yeah, I'm not a collector myself, but yeah, talking about prices is a really important thing as well, because I think we'll talk about that a little bit especially when I get to the Welsh Wind. It's expensive stuff,
It is, yeah. 90 quid a bottle. It's not cheap. I think single grain is 75 quid, I think, something like that. But, you're getting a single cask, really, effectively. You're getting a single cask bottle in, and like I said, it's small scale, all organic. And there are, allowances to be made for that. I'm not saying you can get a better whiskey for 90 quid, 100%, but will you get something as unique? I suppose it depends where you shop around, but it's a great whiskey. And I think when I've done tastings with most people before, it tends to come out on the top end of, like, people really enjoy it. Tends to beat Penderyn, dare I say it, in blind tastings normally as well. So it's a great whiskey to try. and quite accessible. You can buy it online as well.
Definitely. I mean, this is so talking of tasting notes. Now, I talk about on my videos like the how the nose and the palate differs. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it translates quite neatly across. Here, I think they're just so different, the nose and the palate. The nose, I'm getting like almost like it's like a rhubarb and custard sweet kind of vibe.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's
like those old pink and yellow sweets, sort of with the sugar and everything. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's like it is sweet, but it's got a kind of sourness to it as well, which again weird to say on the nose because that's really a palate vibe. But yeah, whereas on the palate, the Madeira cask comes through and it's way sweeter than the nose makes you think.
It's super Christmas cakey kind of vibes I get on the palate, and really like raisin heavy, and I'm a big fan personally, and I think my partner Charlotte, who's not a big whiskey drinker, always enjoys a dram of this because it's quite smooth as well. It's not like harsh alcohol. I can't remember what the ABV is because I've got a bottle in front of me, but it's not it's not too punchy at the same time. Even though is it high 40s? Or was it 50?
46 is on here.
46. Okay, so it's not that high anyway. But yeah, it's smooth anyway. That's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, definitely very accessible. And I mean, I think from my opinion, I mean, I quite like Madeira cask whiskies. I think if you don't like Madeira cask whiskies, you're probably not going to find much here that you enjoy. But if you do, then this is going to be right up your street because it's
I think the sherry one's really good as well. I mean, it's a proper sherry bomb whiskey, and that's good as well. And like I said, if you like smoky whiskey, I would say the single grain. I think grain whiskey's misunderstood a bit, and the kind of whiskey snobs always go, "Oh, grain whiskey." Oh, no, I'm not. I only do single malt, but try it. I think it's something different, and and if you like smoky whiskey and popcorn notes, then it's a good one as well.
Yeah, I like all of those things. I'm a massive advocate of grain whiskey here. So usually I caveat that with like a nice well-aged grain, but I'm as I always say, I'm happy to have my my misconceptions blown out of the water. Always, like if I ever say, actually, funny enough, that your next dram will do that because I often say I don't like rye whiskey. But we'll get onto that when I actually have it. But this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely. But again, I would say it's got a challenging nose to it. So if your first thought, you pop the cork, you've just bought this and you poured it into your glass and smelt it, you might think, oh, what am I in for? But the palate is beautiful. Really enjoy that. How much did you say it was? About 90 quid, did you say?
About 90 quid, yeah. They differ from batch to batch because, like, they'll have like a 2023 batch, 2022 batch, and it you can buy like a few of the different years batches and they will all be slightly different. What I would say as well is wholly matured in that. So that Madeira cask is not a finished cask. That is wholly matured in Madeira. Their sherry is wholly matured in sherry as well. And they're good casks, they're not third, fourth, all the life sucked out of them fills. They're actually like, good quality casks. So you're getting a lot of flavor from a non-age statement, but they're still at the like 7-8-year-old mark normally as a general rule anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's literally the first Davila that's passed my lips. So that's got me interested. It's a name I've heard of, but like you said earlier, I mean, I'm quite guilty. I don't go searching for whiskey anymore. I don't go trawling the internet, whatever. I usually wait for some advert to pop my way or some email to pop my way or something like that. And I just haven't seen anything from them at all. So
small scale, I think, is just, unless you know about them, it's one of those things. They haven't got the marketing budget, and that's the same as all of the Welsh distilleries, with the exception of Penderyn and Aberfoyles, is their marketing budget is tiny. In the Welsh Wind, I think, are clever with where they spend their marketing budget, and they've got a little bit more of a marketing budget, but they still is tiny compared to the big players, the other two big distilleries out there in Wales. So yeah. But glad you like it, and glad it's nice to see you try these for the first time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, I tried probably the tiniest wee amount of this as I was setting up for the stream tonight, but genuinely that's the first time tonight that I've tried them all anyway. But now I'm down. I mean, that's the one I've had the most of now. I'm halfway through that one. So
they're good sample size bottles as well, aren't they?
yeah.
I deliberately gave everyone these like decent size sample bottles, so you can actually really have like a proper pour of it as well.
Absolutely. Okay, before we get into the last dram, then that I've got here, I say last dram. I'm gonna pour myself a bit of this later as well. But,
yeah, we should talk about that anyway.
But yeah, I want to talk to you about your podcast as well, which is I'm not sure what came first. I perhaps should have done a bit more research about what came first between you all started organising your festivals or starting to do the podcast.
No, the podcast, yeah, 100%. The podcast was first, yeah. So the podcast came about as a kind of something to do with the book. So the book idea came like a coffee table book for Welsh Whisky, which we're kind of like nearly there with. Really, I'm hoping to get it out for the festival, but these things always take longer than you hope. So it'd probably be next year's festival. But anyway, it's big coffee table book. My partner, she's fantastic with the camera, so like really nice photography in it. What I think anyway. Kind of snapshots of the distillery that as if you're a fly on the wall with, write-ups and my journey through visiting all these Welsh distilleries, basically, and the experience I have visiting them and the people I've met and things like that. And we thought, well, why don't we do something along with it? Because, you can only fill so much time doing these visits and, it's an effort to go and see people at the best time. So why not record a podcast? And I used to do some video editing and some other bits and bobs. So I kind of dabbled with it over the years. But I thought, yeah, why not? There's not a Welsh Whisky podcast for good reason, probably. But let's give it a try. And those of you who listened to my first few records, the sound's not amazing because the mic splitter wasn't working quite properly, and but it gets better at the sound quality, and hopefully now it's a bit more polished. And I'm really proud of some of the episodes, and we're on season 2 because I don't release every week, so I'll release every 2 weeks in the season, and then I'll take a break from it, do my other things, my day job, and then come back. So season 2 just finished, and season 3 will be out in the autumn. It's some distilleries, some whiskey personalities that have a tenuous link to Welsh whisky, some other kind of Welsh whisky shops as well, so some good places to buy whiskey, and we did some Welsh whiskey myths and legends and history. So if you're a bit like kind of into your history, we did an episode about that. And I really enjoy doing it, and I really enjoy the access it gives me to speak to people within the industry that I just don't think I would have got otherwise without the podcast and without the book as a door opener, and I'm in a very nice position now where people are actually starting to ring me up and message me going, come and see us. We're starting to do whiskey, we're going to be doing whiskey. Mm-hmm. We've got, we're laying down new make, come and talk to us, come and see what we're doing. And that's a nice place to be now, because I don't have to scour the internet and try and search out. Actually, I know the industry well, and I know all of the distilleries that are capable of it now, I suppose, as well, through the Wales Distilled project. And they know I love whiskey, and they know that's what I'm mainly about. So it's nice for them to approach me. But it's cool. It's a cool thing to do. I enjoy it.
I'm good. I'm glad to hear that you enjoy it as well, because I mean, as a content creator myself, there'd be no joy in it if you didn't enjoy it, right? You'd just be banging 100%. Your head up. If you were just chasing listeners, or in my case viewers, you would just be upset all the time, I think. So it's an outlet for passion.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people use that expression, don't they? A passion project, and that's exactly what it is. It's not monetized in any way, so it's not like full of adverts for Barclays Bank or whatever, and I really can't stand that most of the time. I get it, because it's expensive to do,
Mm-hmm.
The mics are expensive, the software is expensive, your time is expensive as a content creator. But I just want it to be there, accessible for people. I only have it on Spotify as well, which I apologize for Apple users, but I just can't get to figure out how to get it on iTunes. It will not let me get it on iTunes. So it is Spotify, but you can listen to it if you Google the podcast. You can listen to it on I think it's called Spotify for podcasters, and you don't have to have like an account. You can just listen to it online, on like a browser window as well. So you don't have to have the Spotify app to listen to it. But yeah, it's go back and check it out. It's 20 episodes. They're all about 45, 50 minutes. People have told me they like to listen to it on the way to work and stuff because it's like good with their morning commute or what have you. So yeah, see what you think of it, and if you enjoy it, then great, and subscribe, and thumbs up and all that kind of stuff, and whatever people say in it, just enjoy it and send me a message. That's what I ask people to do. If you enjoy it, send me a message on Instagram and tell me that you've listened to it, and if there's something you'd like to hear that I am done, I'm always open to suggestions as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've dropped a link in the description below for it as well, so hopefully people will saunter over. I think if I checked rightly, like you said earlier, you've just finished your season 2, so right now is a good opportunity to catch up before any new content comes out. So that, because it's often, especially when you come to a podcast that's got like thousands of episodes, it's a bit of a daunting task. But you've got 20 English episodes right now. I think we've got one. Have you
I've got
Welsh?
one in Welsh. Yeah, I did one with Angle Simon in Welsh to test myself, because I'm a second language Welsh speaker, and I wanted to do a Welsh episode. I think it's got 9 people that listened to it, but thank you, the 9 people that did listen to that episode in Welsh. But you can listen to it in English. We recorded a double episode, so we did an English episode, and then we did a kind of slightly more condensed version for my limited Welsh language on the other one, and I'm really happy. I mean, I doubt there's any Welsh speakers listening to this now, but I do fi yn siarad Cymraeg. I learned it in school, and I need to practice it more. I'm lazy with my Welsh, and I live in North Wales where 7-year-old kids speak Welsh with each other, and it's their first language, and I'm always ashamed that I don't speak more of it. So it's a good excuse for practice. I don't know if I'll do another Welsh episode, but you never know. If I've got someone that's keen, David's the only person that actually was keen to do a Welsh episode. Everyone else was like, "Whoa, no, like no chance," So yeah, he was very patient with me as well, I would say. And it was a lot of editing and going back and forth and stopping and that. But yeah, 20 English episodes. There's going to be a bonus episode, I would say, and I'll be plugging it this week. A bonus episode will be out at the end of the month with my friend Rob from Whisky Ventures, who some of you may know, some of you may not. He is cycling all of the Welsh whisky distilleries, starting in Cardiff, finishing in Holyhead, and he's doing all the Welsh whisky distilleries that are producing whisky at the minute with the Welsh Air Ambulance bases. And all of the money he raises is going to the Welsh Air Ambulance. Rob has done this before. This is not his first rodeo, as they say. This is very easy for Rob. This is like a week's holiday, because he did all of the Scottish distilleries in one hit, which took him about a month and a bit to do. And he visited every single operating Scottish distillery, because he lives up in Edinburgh. So this will be an easy week for Rob, really. But listen out for that episode. We're going to be doing some like live recording that Rob will be doing on the ride on his own podcast that we'll link it to, and we'll do like a special 1-hour episode with me talking to Rob. I'm going to talk to him on the Monday afternoon. He's at Penderyn in Llandudno, and then like kind of get some snippets from the ride and do like an amalgamated 1-hour special on the ride, basically. So yeah, so cool guy and cool project and worthy cause. I see the air ambulance fly across my house literally constantly, so it's always good that they get the funding they need, and nice for the whiskey tie-in as well. No one's done it before, so it's a cool project.
Definitely, that sounds cool. I'll look out for that. Yeah, because although I don't email you, but I do enjoy the podcast. It's a good podcast. And like, I mean, you were humble to say that the first few, but I think as I always say, if anyone goes back and looks back at my first few, I think it's always good to have a couple at the start, right? But that you can compare to, so that when you can look back and go, yeah, we've had some progress. So.
I mean, like tonight, we both know we've set our mics up, headphones, like the room's not too echoey. If you're doing live record for anything, even if you're a pro, there's too many variables, and the Penderyn episode, man, the echo is horrendous in the they did it in their boardroom upstairs in the Brecon, the main Penderyn distillery, the first one. And it's bloody terrible. So sorry, but it is awful. The sound quality is like you can just hear echo because it's a big empty room, high ceilings, metal ceiling, and it's just bouncing down off it. But it's nice to do them in the place I visited as well. And I've tried to do all the distillery records in the distillery after the time I spent there. So it's like I've just been to the distillery. I've had the tour, I've done some tastings, we spoke about the history, and then we're interviewing, the owner or the master distiller or whoever, or the Penderyn one is Steve, the CEO, and Eista, who's the master blender. So you get two people, and similar in the Aberfoils one, we did Kirsty, who used to work for Aberfoils, their master blender, and I forgot his name now. It's terrible, but they're head of distilling as well. So there's other content as well as distillery content, like I said. So it's Welsh whiskey, the Welsh whiskey world, I would say it is, not just the distilleries within it.
Like you say, if you can get a tenuous link somewhere, it's great, right?
Yeah, I think Dan from Somerton was like the most tenuous link I've ever. But I just love talking to Dan, and he's great fun. So I was like, well, you can get Somerton Whisky Club membership in Wales, so we'll have Dan on. But that was a push. But I just like Dan, and I think he's good. He's good value for money, as they say. He's always funny. So it just makes a good episode, and it was an excuse for me to chat to Dan for longer than the podcast episode is. We went on for quite a long time, but condensed it down into the podcast episode.
No, 100%. I mean, I did a live stream with him fairly recently. Did a blind tasting, but usually I keep it exclusively to whiskey tubers on that monthly roundtable. But technically, he puts out his ramblings on YouTube. So I was like, "You're a YouTuber, get in."
Get in.
Okay, then we got the last of the four. Then is this Aberfoils.
Yeah, so this is another one. I do actually have some of it left. So
amazing.
Everyone in the UK has probably seen Aberfoils on the shelf. This kind of bottle with the Celtic knot, but a red label, which is their standard expression. I mean, it's in pretty much every supermarket in the UK. Fair play to them. Their giant presence is down to the fact they're owned by Halewood, which not everyone knows. They're Halewood Hearts and Spirits, which is a massive company that owns some huge brands like Whitney Neal, Krabby's, some of these like on-the-shelf brands that everyone's heard of. And they've used their contacts, obviously, to get Aberfoils everywhere. They've also done 24-hour distilling with their two stills, very kind of Scottish stills, pot with a line arm and a condenser. And they produce a lot of liquid. I mean, they are fantastically accessible, and we need that as a category, because everyone needs, I've said this before, everyone needs the Bells and the Jamesons and the accessible brand that everyone can buy as a benchmark. And I think they're doing it at like 22 quid normally for a bottle in the supermarket for a single malt as well. So fair play to them. I don't know how they do it. But what I would say is the rye is the one for the whiskey enthusiast. I've tried a lot of their distillery selects, their Barolo, their orange wine. I think I've had most of them. A friend of mine from a whiskey club locally gave me every single Aberfoils that had ever been released in a sample bottle. So I've literally gone through the lot of them. And honestly, hands down, I really like this. Some people will probably say, it's crap and it's rye and I don't really like it. But for me, this is what they should do more of. Keep the standard expression 100%, but I keep telling them, try and get this, ramp up production, try and get this for like 50 quid, 45 quid, get it on the shelves. And this will go like you're selling, like gold basically for the price of scrap metal. So it's great whiskey, I think. And for people who haven't had rye before, I think it's a really nice rye whiskey as well. I think it's got loads going on in it. And I'd be intrigued to see what you think of it as well, because I love it. I mean, this is what I'm sipping on now. I finished the bit of Coles that I had, and I'm sitting on the rye, and every time I open it, I'm like, yes, I really enjoy it. It's a nice dram.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, now, throughout my whiskey career, let's say, I've struggled with certain types of whiskey The first one was peat. I didn't like peat when I started the channel, so that was like we're coming up to 8 years now. So even 8 years ago, I didn't like peat. Now I love it. Because I plugged away and plugged away and plugged away. Rye, I've really struggled with over the years, and I found ones that are palatable, and found ones that I haven't liked at all. I found a couple that I like, and it turns out, like, I'm just looking at the information page now. It turns out that what I like is around about that 50-50 mark. So this is, although it's considered a rye, it's 51% rye, right?
It is, exactly. And I think that's the difference, because if you have a wholly dry whiskey, it's super peppery and it's like it's a bit one-dimensional. Whereas this, you get pepper, 100%, I think. But you get these lovely other flavorings, that I just think work really well with that peppery finish then. And it's sweet, and then the pepper at the end is nice, rather than it just being like all this black pepper that just nails you and you just can't taste anything else, which unfortunately some rye whiskies I've tried, I'm with you there, they're a bit much for me.
Yeah, a bit hot, I always say, but like you said,
exactly. Bit spicy.
Bit spicy, yeah. And when Ben in the chat is saying that he was put off by the £20 bottle. He also struggles with rye, and he's also going off virgin oak. So this might not be for him, but for me, I mean, I quite like a virgin oak when it's not too over oaked. And this is what I mean. I'm reading again, 3 years, so it's not at the time to.
No, it's new whiskey at the end of the day. Like most Aberfoils, they're cranking it out and they're getting it on the shelves. So yeah, it's not an age statement, and most of it is 3.5, 4 years old. Going out. But for new whiskey, I think it's amazing, and I think it's great as a point of difference to have a Welsh rye. I mean, I know Toad, the Oxford Arts and Distillery, they're quite famous for rye in English whiskey, and it's great to finally have, because it's only came out this year, a Welsh rye as a point of difference. So we got a Welsh single grain, a Welsh rye, and then obviously lots of Welsh single malt. So I'm all for like lots of different versions of Welsh whiskey. That's what it's about for me, is the more the merrier, really, and the more variety is what it's about.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say I quite like this. It's not so different to other ryes that I've tried. It's just a little bit more chilled,
approachable.
A little bit, yeah, that's a good one. Approachable, yeah, it's a little bit more approachable. The 51% is really inviting to me. I love a high ABV, so having that is But this is one of the few ryes I've ever tried, rye influenced anyway, that I just keep smelling it. It smells great.
It does smell. I love the nose on this. And one thing I would say, and I'm honest, anyone listens to the podcast, I'm kind of honest about my feelings about what people are doing and how they're doing it. It's too expensive. 100%. It's way too expensive. I think when it came out, it was like 80 quid or 70 quid a bottle. It's too much money. It's too much money for the age. It's too much money for the liquid in the bottle. But I get it. It was a distillery exclusive. You couldn't buy it. I think you can buy it online now because they've got some left still. But like I said, I think if they ramped up the production on something like this as well, and they could get the price point down, I think people would really go for it. And if they could get it on the shelves in the supermarkets at that kind of 45, 50 quid mark, and then on sticker price, it normally comes down then, doesn't it? If you get the deals, then I think it'd actually be much more approachable, and people would go, "Oh, this is different," and it is very different from every other Aberfoils. That's why I really like it personally. I'm not a big fan of Aberfoils as just a straight drink. It's not. I quite like it as a mixer, but that I will just no water, no anything. I'll just drink that all day long. So, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, as I always say, I could lose a lot of brain cells to that, for sure. That's a tidy one. Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I'm looking at the shop now, 85 quid. There's absolutely no way I'd be able to. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to buy that.
It's too expensive. It is too expensive. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got a good relationship with the distillery, and they gave me a bottle when it first came out. And then this is like the dregs from their awards entry, because we do the Wales Distilled Awards, which is part of the festival. And this was like the public tasting bottle that's, like been nailed, obviously. So, and I've sent samples out. I mean, I try and send, if I got it for free, I try and send samples out to people like yourself, and that, so you can see what it's all about as well. But personally, no, I wouldn't pay it. Like, it's really bad, isn't it? Because I'm telling you, I love this whiskey. It's fantastic, but I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it with 80 quid because I haven't got that kind of money to spend on whiskey that's like that young at the end of the day. So yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's one thing I'm telling you, it's great whiskey, but the other thing I'm saying, like, it's too expensive. But I'm always honest. No. I try to be always honest with people.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do the same thing. We talking about stuff. I mean, I get sent quite a lot of bottles these days, which I'm very fortunate for. But all for the benefit of the channel, because if I wasn't getting those bottles, there's no way I would buy them, because I mean, I'm doing at my cadence of 5 reviews a month. There's no way I could buy some of these 80 quid, 100 quid bottles. I just don't. You, as you said earlier, like, YouTube doesn't really pay that much. It keeps the lights on, blah blah blah. But yeah, the point is, absolutely, I've tried that. It is fantastic whiskey. The shop page is open, and if it's still open tomorrow morning, I might chance it, but I doubt it.
What I would say is, if you're sort of want something different, and you're into rye, or you kind of like sitting on the fence like yourself, like some things you'd like to, I would say it's a good bottle to buy with some friends. I know a lot of people kind of go like excuse me, they chip in for bottles and share it. I think that's a great one. If you've got 2 or 3 other whiskey mates, you can all put 20 quid in, you will guaranteed you'll be talking about that for a long time. And if nothing else, come to the festival and try it. There's my other plug again. So it's one of those ones that I think is a good one to come and try at a whiskey festival before spending your hard-earned money on. And I'm hoping, I'm pushing them to keep making this and have it available for things like the festival as well.
Good. Well, we're coming up to about an hour and a half. So before we go, I think it's probably best we talk about this little beauty here, the In the Welsh Wind, because obviously it's a Welsh whiskey, and people watching will know I've got a bit of a soft spot for those guys since my first visit 3 odd years ago, because I have a cask maturing there, and they've just released their first one, which you've tried, haven't you?
I have. I was very kind. I bought a bottle with my own money, which is the most I've ever spent on Welsh whiskey, because it was 95 quid.
95 quid, yeah.
It's a lot of money. And I haven't opened my bottle because I was very kindly sent a sample at the same time. So they were going to send me a sample anyway. And I was cheeky, and I said, look, I'm buying a bottle, but I still want the sample, because I want to crack the sample open, try it, and then leave the bottle for a bit until I've got like a good excuse to open it for that price tag. So yeah, it's good. Personally, I'm not as excited by it as I am their main release that's coming in the autumn, and we spoke about this off air. This is just standard malted barley they bought in. This is probably crisp malt, I think they bought in. It's not in their ice still either, and more importantly, it's not their green grain. So anyone knows anything or doesn't know anything about In the Welsh Wind, they are experimenting with grain from the farm next door to them. Literally, you can see the farm from the distillery. And they're growing grain in Wales, which is unusual as well. Most Welsh distilleries do not use Welsh grain, 100%. And then they are kind of sort of floor malting it. They're not heating it, but they're using the heat of the building. It's one of those things that's weird. It's like, is it a single malt? Because is it malted barley? But what it is green grain left to sprout, left to kind of germinate, and then put in this ice still, which you can Google. It's very different from normal stills. And then it makes this super like sugar water new make, which is incredible, I think. Really nice. I taste quite a lot of new make because I go to a lot of new distilleries, and they always like, try the new make. And it's like, oh God, do I have to? But that I really like. I really like their new make. And they gave me some stave aged bottles. So you put a small oak stave from a barrel in the bottle, kind of swill it around for a month or so, and then it kind of imparts what you think you might get from the barrel, and it really does taste really good. So I'm super excited to try that in the autumn. They're going to release it at the Whisky Festival, I think, or just about the same time as the Whisky Festival. And that's what I'm mega excited for. I can't wait to try that. But yeah, impressed with it, but not, I think, what the distillery will be known for, and not what I think they're aiming for. It's just like a nice inaugural release to say, like, this is us, we're making whiskey, but wait for what we're doing in the future, because it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've tried most of their kind of little releases they've done with independent bottles and whatnot, which obviously is a dicey thing to do, because you don't want to get a name for making really nice independent bottles and then release your own whiskies. Doesn't meet the scratch. So it's nice to have something that's been around theirs, even if it's not quite what they're going to release. Like you said, like I mean, my cask that I've got is ice still, and it's the green grain as well. So I'm excited for that. That hopefully, if it's ready, it'll be out next year. If it's ready at 3 years, if it's ready at 3 years, I'm bottling that bad boy. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm excited to try their first green grain as well. But in the meantime, this is good stuff. And I mean, actually, I checked today; it's actually sold out today, which is good.
I bet. I mean, they've got a good following,
Yeah.
and I'm not surprised. Even though it's expensive, I think it would have been bought by a lot of collectors. I think realistically, half of those bottles will never be opened. They'll be sat on a shelf and they'll be sold on. But it's nice. They need money at the end of the day. They're new distillery. They're not owned by a big conglomerate. I mean, people forget it's a business. It is a business that you need to make money from, and it's expensive business, because you are not making any money for 3 years minimum. And not only that, you've got to continue to make product, because if it is good in 3 years' time, you've got to meet the demand for people. You can't just go, oh, that was nice, wasn't it? See you in 3 years again, So you've got to basically invest all this money for 3 years, making liquid every day, putting it in barrels every day, till you get to the point where you hope people like it. And for a small business that's just, funded by a bit of grant money and a bit of personal money, it's hard, it's a hard kind of thing to juggle. So hopefully they did well out this first release, and it's given them a bit of cash injection to last until the main stuff comes out anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's you're exactly right. I mean, yes, it was expensive for a first release. I was lucky enough to be sent it, to be fair, but I've seen even more expensive. Like, I mean, not to pick, but Bimber, their first release, how many years ago was that now? 5-6 years ago? That was 125 quid that long ago.
Oh, it's not unheard of. I mean,
no.
It's like, that seems to be, people are going, well, whiskey's really expensive, so even if 3 years, we're going to go 100 quid or 80 quid, which, I mean, I'm people have their own thoughts on that. I have my own, but I won't share them,
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, even if you think it is expensive, it's sold out. So it's obviously
people want it. Yeah,
400 odd people thought it was fine.
Exactly.
And I think, because obviously I'm going to review this, I think I'm going to do it this week actually. So look out for that if you're interested. But that's one bottle.
Yeah,
that's one bottle that's open.
That was opened. Yeah. No, I will be opening mine. I haven't bought mine to collect, but I'm not going to pop it open midweek and kind of go, oh, that's nice for that price. That is waiting for something special. Christmas or kind of friends or something to celebrate. A special bottle, even if the liquid in it is, not like the most amazing whiskey I've ever tried. It's what it means. What it means to the industry, and it's the 6th distillery now that's live that you can buy bottles of whiskey from, which is fantastic. That's for me, that's a great milestone. That's a good place to be in Welsh whiskey.
Definitely. Well, I think we've covered most of the things that you're into at the moment. But if you've got anything else you want to plug before we finish, then please feel free. But otherwise, it's been a fantastic chat.
Yeah, I mean, I would say watch this space. There's, like we spoke about, I know there's plenty of other distilleries, or not plenty, but there are a few others, and there's going to be at least 10. There's one that's going to be released at the Whisky Festival that I know of. there's one that's going to be released just before the Whisky Festival that's not exhibiting, but we're hoping to have there maybe some kind of masterclass format as well. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, really, and stay tuned and follow me on Instagram, I would say, and you'll get like the most up-to-date stuff, because if I know about it, I'll put it up there, and share stuff and all that. And if you're kind of in the business of whiskey, I am on LinkedIn as well. I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram. So go over there, and I hope you guys at home enjoyed my ramblings on Welsh whiskey. And thanks for having me on the show as well. It's long time listener, first time caller, as they say. So
yeah,
it's cool to be on the show.
No, I mean, I think I said earlier on as well. It's it was important for me to make sure that when you came on, I could do it justice. And when we first started talking, I didn't have the tech dialed, so I was like, yeah, let's delay as long as we can. I got a few other people on to kind of make sure we tested it, but this was perfect. I mean, I didn't say it earlier, but we haven't had any tech issues whatsoever today. Now, I can say that now, right at the end of the stream, in case it all happens now. But yeah, it's been it's been great to have you on, mate, and it's been really informative to discover some distilleries that I've just about heard of but never tried. And hopefully that's got people, I mean, again, 25 watching, people on the replay, if you're watching, hopefully you're interested in Welsh whiskey now, and you might pick up a bottle if you hadn't already.
Yeah, no, go seek it out, and and go and see what it's all about, something different. And yeah, I encourage people, try new whiskey in general, I think is the answer. There's so much good new whiskey coming out, so go explore and and find these gems that there are.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I say a lot. People ask me what my favorite whiskey is, but I can't remember the last time I bought a second of a bottle. Like literally years, probably since I started the channel, maybe 8 years. So yeah, I don't know. Exploration always for me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. Cool, man. Well, hopefully I will see you in November. Anyway, we'll speak before, but hopefully I will welcome you to North Wales in November.
It sounds a long way off, but I'm sure I'll blink and it'll be there.
It will.
Nice one. Thank you very much, mate. I wish you all the best for your festival and the book. Hopefully the book makes some good progress. But I will see you soon. And thank you everyone for watching. It's been a fantastic stream. I'm going to head over to Discord and do a bit of a chat there. So if anyone's on Discord and wants to have a little chat, then feel free to head over. But otherwise, I'll say thank you and see you again another time.
Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.